Welcome back to the DRM News Podcast.
It's great to be here.
Today, we're diving into a story that's, well, it's complex and disturbing. The cybercrime industry operating out of Myanmar.
Yeah.
It might seem like something happening a world away, but the consequences reach globally, affecting individuals and even economies.
That's right. And what's really, I think, fascinating here is the sheer scale of this operation. It's not just about online scams. We're talking about human trafficking, forced labor, and organized crime,
Wow.
all intertwined. This Myanmar scam, as it's called, generates billions of dollars annually that rivals the revenue of some small countries.
Wow. Yeah, that really puts it into perspective. So how does this scam actually work? I mean, the sources we've got paint a pretty grim picture.
Yeah, they do. Essentially, they lure people in with fake job offers, promising high salaries, amazing benefits, and even luxurious accommodations.
Right.
They target individuals looking for a better life, often from countries with maybe limited economic opportunities.
So it preys on people's hopes and ambitions. It's almost like a twisted version of the American dream.
Exactly. And the scammers are incredibly sophisticated. I mean, they use official-looking websites, arrange travel visas, and even communicate through legitimate channels to create this illusion of authenticity.
It's chilling how meticulously they plan this trap. So what happens when these unsuspecting victims arrive in Myanmar?
Well, the dream job quickly turns into a nightmare. They're taken to these heavily guarded compounds, often in remote areas controlled by armed groups. Their passports and phones are confiscated, and they're essentially imprisoned, forced to work grueling hours under constant threat.
Yeah, the sources mention victims being forced to work 12 to 18 hours a day running various online scams.
That's right. They're trained to run all sorts of scams, romance scams, investment scams, cryptocurrency schemes, lottery scams, anything that preys on human vulnerability.
It's heartbreaking to think of these people trapped in this situation.
It is, and the punishments for those who resist or fail to meet their quotas are brutal. Beatings, torture, solitary confinement. Some victims have tragically died because of the horrific conditions, while others remain trapped for months or even years.
It's modern-day slavery, hidden behind the anonymity of the internet. But who are the masterminds behind this operation?
Well, it's a complex network often involving transnational crime syndicates, some with ties to the Chinese mafia. These syndicates collaborate with armed groups in Myanmar who control the territories where these compounds are located.
Yeah, the source material mentions how the 2021 military coup in Myanmar created a power vacuum that allowed these scams to flourish. So it's almost like a perfect storm of factors that created this situation.
Absolutely. And corrupt officials also play a role, turning a blind eye to these activities in exchange for bribes and a share of the profits. It's this web of corruption that makes it incredibly difficult to combat this issue.
So you've got individuals desperate for a better life, organized crime seeking massive profits, and a country struggling with political instability. It's a recipe for exploitation on a massive scale.
It really is, and I think it's a stark reminder of the dark underbelly of globalization and the vulnerability of those seeking opportunities in a world that's increasingly interconnected.
Yeah, definitely a lot to unpack here.
Mm-hmm.
And in the next part of our discussion, we're going to delve deeper into the specific types of scams these victims are forced to run
Right.
and the devastating impact they have on individuals and communities worldwide.
It's really quite something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the scale of this Myanmar scam and how it operates. Now let's dive into the specific types of scams these victims are forced to run.
Yeah, one of the most prevalent and frankly heartbreaking is the romance scam.
Right.
Victims are forced to create fake profiles on dating sites and social media platforms, targeting individuals looking for companionship or love.
The sources describe how they meticulously craft these online personas, sharing personal stories, expressing affection, even sending gifts.
Right.
It's a calculated effort to build trust and exploit people's emotional vulnerabilities.
It really is. It's a cruel manipulation of human connection. They'll spend weeks, even months, gaining their victim's trust.
Right.
Once they've hooked them, they start with small requests for money, perhaps a medical emergency or a family crisis.
Okay.
The amounts might seem insignificant at first, but the requests become more frequent and the sums larger.
It's like a slow boil, gradually increasing the pressure until the victim is completely in their grip.
Precisely. And then comes the big con, often involving a fake investment opportunity.
Okay.
They might claim to have insider knowledge about cryptocurrency or a foolproof system for generating huge profits. Blinded by the emotional connection and the allure of financial gain, many victims fall for it.
They drain their savings, take out loans, even remortgage their homes. It's devastating, not just financially, but emotionally.
Absolutely. By the time they realize it's a scam, the perpetrator has vanished along with their money, leaving the victim feeling betrayed, heartbroken, and often financially ruined. These romance scams are incredibly insidious because they exploit our basic human need for connection and love.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder to be cautious about who we trust online, especially when it comes to financial matters.
Right.
But it's not just romance scams, right? There are other types of online fraud they're forced to run.
Yeah, another common one is the investment scam, particularly those involving cryptocurrency.
Right.
Victims set up these fake websites and platforms that mimic legitimate investment opportunities, offering high returns on stocks, bonds, or digital currencies.
They use sophisticated language and design to create an air of legitimacy and often employ high-pressure tactics to encourage quick decisions, creating a sense of urgency and scarcity. It's all about manipulating people's fear of missing out.
That's right, and I use fake testimonials, news articles, even fabricated market data to bolster their credibility. And once the victim invests, their money is gone, often siphoned through complex networks of anonymous accounts that are nearly impossible to trace.
The source material mentions that these scammers are experts at covering their tracks,
Oh, yeah.
making it incredibly difficult for authorities to recover the stolen funds. So it's not just about being vigilant, but also about being incredibly skeptical of any investment opportunity that seems too good to be true.
Absolutely. Always do your due diligence, research the company or platform thoroughly, and never be afraid to ask questions or seek professional advice before committing your money. If something feels off, trust your instincts.
And then there are the lottery and loan scams, which prey on people's hopes and desperation.
Exactly. With lottery scams, victims are forced to send out mass messages claiming the recipient has won a large sum of money. They might even spoof official lottery logos and websites to make it seem more convincing. But there's always a catch. They'll tell the victim they need to pay a fee to claim their winnings. Taxes, processing fees, insurance, they come up with all sorts of excuses.
And of course, once the victim pays, the scammers disappear.
Right. And then there are the loan scams, which target people who are struggling financially, offering loans with low interest rates and easy repayment terms.
Yeah.
But just like with the lottery scam, they'll demand an upfront fee before releasing the funds, and once that fee is paid, the loan never materializes.
It's heartbreaking because these scams often target people who are already in a vulnerable position, exploiting their desperation for financial relief.
Yeah.
It underscores the importance of verifying the legitimacy of any organization or individual offering financial assistance and never paying upfront fees for loans or prizes.
Absolutely. These scams we've discussed are just a glimpse into the dark underbelly of the Myanmar cybercrime industry, but it's crucial to remember that behind every fraudulent transaction, there's a human being caught in a horrifying situation.
Yeah, that's right. We've talked about the mechanics of these scams, the
Right.
intricate webs of deceit and manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't forget about the human cost, the victims who are forced to perpetrate these crimes, and the individuals who fall prey to them. And that's what we'll explore in the next part of our discussion. We've spent a good amount of time, I guess, talking about how these scams work. But it's important to remember that, behind the screens, there are real people
Yeah.
caught in the middle of all this.
Absolutely. I mean, the victims forced to work in these compounds are not just numbers, right? They're individuals with families, dreams, aspirations, just like anyone else.
Yeah, the sources paint a pretty diverse picture of who these victims are. We're talking young professionals, recent graduates, migrant workers,
Right.
anyone seeking better opportunities, really.
Yeah, they often come from countries with limited economic prospects,
Right.
which makes those enticing job offers all the more appealing.
Right?
They arrive in Myanmar full of hope, ready to start a new life.
And instead, they find themselves trapped in a nightmare. Passports are taken, their movements restricted,
Yeah.
they're forced to work in these oppressive, heavily guarded
The
compounds.
conditions are horrendous. I mean, just horrendous. Cramped living spaces, inadequate food, constant surveillance, and that ever-present threat of violence.
Yeah,
It's modern-day slavery, hidden in plain sight.
it's truly horrifying. What kind of long-term impact does this have on the victims who manage to escape?
Well, many struggle with significant trauma, both physical and psychological. The sources we've seen mention, PTSD, anxiety, depression,
Right.
and difficulty reintegrating back into society.
It makes sense. I mean, they've not only been exploited and abused, but also forced to participate in criminal activity,
Yeah.
which can lead to feelings of guilt and shame.
Exactly. And the impact extends beyond the individual, too. Families are torn apart, communities are destabilized,
Right.
and trust in institutions is eroded. The ripple effects of these scams are felt far and wide.
It paints a very bleak picture. What's being done to combat this issue? It seems like such a complex problem to tackle.
Oh, it is. But there are some, I'd say, glimmers of hope. The sources highlight the importance of international cooperation.
Okay.
Countries need to work together, to share intelligence, coordinate law enforcement efforts,
Yeah.
and pressure Myanmar's government to take decisive action.
But given the political instability in Myanmar, it sounds incredibly challenging.
Oh, it is, but it's not impossible. There have been some successful raids and rescues,
Right.
and organizations are working tirelessly to help the victims escape and rebuild their lives.
What about prevention? I mean, what can be done to stop people from falling prey to these scams in the first place?
Well, raising awareness is crucial. Governments, social media platforms, and job websites all need to do more to educate the public about the dangers of these fake job offers.
Great.
People need to be taught how to spot the red flags.
So that means being wary of offers that seem too good to be true,
Yeah,
doing thorough research on potential employers, and being extremely cautious about sharing personal information online.
exactly. If something feels off, trust your gut. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Well, this has been an incredibly eye-opening deep dive into a really complex and disturbing issue. It's shocking to see how technology can be used to exploit people on such a massive scale.
It really is. It's a stark reminder that progress comes with the dark side. But, by shedding light on this issue, raising awareness, and working towards solutions, we can hopefully start to dismantle this horrific industry.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us today and helping us unpack this. To our listeners, we hope you found this informative and empowering. Remember, knowledge is power. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and stay safe.